Hello everyone, it's Nora or Willow back again with another video. And today we're just gonna do a nice simple US president tier list, right? So we're actually gonna add a row below F due to the fact that I will not be ranking some of these. So we're just gonna name it NA. So who we're gonna be putting in here? So first of all, actually these are out of order. Hang on. Um, um, and James Monroe. Um, okay, so first of all, William Henry Harrison only served a month. James Garfield only 6 months, and also not going to be including Barack Obama, Donald Trump, or Joe Biden, just due to recency bias. So the most recent president we'll go up to is George W. Bush. So, without further ado, we'll get started. So, um, George Washington, the first president of the United States, and definitely one of the greats. Washington basically established the role of president and founded the country as a whole. Basically, the reason the United States exists. So, and plus, he didn't really make that many mistakes in his presidency. So, for that, we're going to put George Washington in S tier. John Adams. Now, so I should probably mention we're only counting their presidencies in this video, so nothing outside of that. And John Adams, if we were counting things outside of his presidency, he would most definitely be in like A tier, maybe even S. But we're gonna put him in C tier because of the Alien and Sedition Acts. That's what really brings John Adams down. The Alien and Sedition Acts basically just got the First Amendment out and just went like, no, so yeah, he just nutted the First Amendment. So yeah, for that, John Adams is a C tier, cause I'm all for free speech. Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson, the Louisiana Purchase is the obvious highlight of his presidency. Also eliminating the whiskey tax and healing the relationship with France through the Louisiana Purchase. Um, I think, but we're not actually gonna put Jefferson in S. We're gonna put him in A tier, cause not only his slaves and what he did with those slaves, but also the Embargo Act of 1807, which basically just banned all trade with Britain and France. Now James Madison, probably one of the more out of like the first few presidents, probably one of the more uneventful ones. Of course, the main highlight of his presidency was the War of 1812, and I disagree with why the war started. Similar to another case that's coming up soon. But yeah, so James Madison, um, the War of 1812 started because he gave into the pressure of the South to go to war with Britain to try and I think it was acquire Canada. Um, but yeah, but after Canada was like, no, Madison or the South was like, oh, Mr. Madison, we need to go to war. And yeah, so Madison gave in, but I don't really think that was his fault. But apart from that, he oversaw the era of good feelings as well, which I think was good, along with his successor, who we'll get to in a second. So I think overall, James Madison probably a B tier pick. I think he's definitely he was good, but also they're just rather uneventful. Um, Now we move on to James Monroe. Um, so James Monroe was the last of the founding father presidents. Um, he was good. Oversaw the era of good feelings, more than Madison, and although he did see the first U.S. economic depression, the Panic of 1819. But yeah, overall James Monroe, pretty successful. So we're also gonna put him in B tier. Um, I think the only thing that keeps him from being higher than Madison or even A tier was the Missouri Compromise. Now John Quincy Adams, he was okay. Infrastructure was his main strong point, but you know, it was just rather uneventful. So I think he was better than John Adams Sr. So we're gonna put him here. He probably had a more forgettable presidency from what I know. He is much better as Secretary of State. Andrew Jackson. Now, some people think Jackson is up here. Some people think he's all the way down here. Personally, I put him at high C tier, cause he paid off the national debt, right? He was amazing when it came to that, and like a lot of other things. Like, he was a real leader, but he laid out the Trail of Tears, which was a resounding failure in U.S. history. And but he did preserve the Union for a while with his handling of the nullification crisis, because of old John Calhoun. So then, Martin Van Buren. Van Buren was not good. He didn't have that many major accomplishments, and he oversaw a pretty bad economy. So we're gonna put him in D tier. Plus, he carried out the Trail of Tears. So yeah, he was pretty bad. So we're gonna put him in D tier. And John Tyler. Now this is an opinion that will get me grilled. I still think Tyler is in D tier, but he's like a high D tier. Cause he didn't have much power, so he couldn't do anything wrong. He couldn't do anything right, and he was definitely a bad president, but he couldn't do anything wrong either. Um, like after he basically turned against the Whigs, they were like, no, we're not supporting you anymore. Okay, we don't want you, and because the Whigs held the majority in Congress at the time, um, Tyler couldn't really do much. So yeah, he basically just got nay-nayed, in modern terms. James K. Polk. This is another one that could get me attacked, but I'm gonna put Polk in A tier. Now I am not an imperialist by any means, right? But with James Polk, um, like he started the Mexican American War, and that was like really fucked up. But he gained like more land than any other president outside of I think Jefferson. It's one of those two. But yeah, like he gained like Texas, California, um, and plus Oregon, which he got from the British. He fulfilled all of his campaign promises. Like he created an independent treasury, got Texas, got Oregon. Um, Can't remember what the other thing was, but yeah. Um, he's like a low A tier, I'd say. He was definitely really good though. Zachary Taylor, probably one of the most uneventful presidencies, if not the most uneventful. Like he admitted California to the Union, so that was really good. So for that, we're gonna put him in C tier, just because he didn't really do anything good, but he didn't do anything bad. He could have been more aggressive when it came to the slavery issue, though. Millard Fillmore. Uh, mm, he's gonna be our first F tier. His biggest accomplishment was probably the Perry expedition, basically opening Japan up from his isolationist policy. But yeah, like the Compromise of 1850 and the Fugitive Slave Act was just destroyed his presidency. Like he was riding it for a little bit. He was doing good, but then just the overflow of just absolute just shit just killed him. Like he was gone in that time. Franklin Pierce, another F tier. Um, he signed Kansas Nebraska Act and did nothing. Like he was probably worse than Fillmore when it came to slavery. He Kansas Nebraska Act. He signed the Gadsden Purchase, which was really good. Because it got Arizona and New Mexico. But yeah, like Pierce just like he was a dough face. Face kind of looks like it made of dough. Hmm. I don't know why I'm thinking about that. Um, Franklin Pierce bread. Hmm. Anyway, we're getting off topic. Um, yeah, but Pierce just a very weak leader. Also was a raging alcoholic. So yeah. James Buchanan, even worse. Did literally nothing throughout his entire presidency. He was super corrupt. And did nothing when the South started to secede. Like, he didn't try to stop them. He didn't try anything. He was just like, all right, let you do that. But then after three awful ones, we come to the best. Abraham Lincoln, who is top of S tier, no contest. Lincoln was the best president in U.S. history. Like he saved the Union. Like after the South was seceding, he led the Union to their victory. Like his leadership was why the U.S. still exists today. In fact, I would argue, right, Abraham Lincoln was the best person to ever live. Like that's how confident I am with him. Like the writ of habeas corpus, that was pretty bad, but like he got rid of slavery. Like plus I feel like I'm a libertarian, right? But I feel like at this time authoritarianism was needed to keep the country at bay. So yeah, Abraham Lincoln, high S tier, like high S tier. Then back to shit. Andrew Johnson, better than Buchanan due to the purchase of Alaska, but like the black codes and being the first president impeached was just like screwed his legacy. He like the only thing I like about Andrew Johnson was the fact that he was the only Southern senator to stay loyal to the Union. But apart from that, nothing, just pure shit. Uh, Ulysses S. Grant. Um, I'm gonna put him in B tier because his fighting of the KKK was, or I don't even know if I could say that on YouTube. I'll probably have to blur it in editing. But yeah, the let's call them the Southern Ghosts, right? The ghosts, Pac-Man, the Pac-Man. So yeah, he fought the Pac-Man. Dude, like he eradicated them for years due to his harsh, like harsh punishments. I cannot talk today. Um, but yeah, he also like Reconstruction really thrived under his watch after Andrew Johnson botched it. But it had to end at the end of his term due to the Compromise of 1877, which was signed by Rutherford Hayes. But yeah, that was kind of out of Grant's control, so I don't hold that against him. He has harsh Reconstruction policies in a good way were good. So yeah, B tier. Speaking of Rutherford Hayes, we're gonna put him in C tier. Probably the most forgettable president. He was just kind of okay. I feel nothing really towards him. He he was the president of all time. He ended Reconstruction was bad, but the civil service reform under him was amazing. Um, so yeah, overall, just kind of C tier. Don't really feel anything towards him. Chester Arthur. So, uh, we're also gonna put Chester Arthur in A tier, and people mostly look at his presidency for the Chinese Exclusion Act, and that was absolutely horrible on his part. I hold that against him a lot. But that wasn't the defining trait, because xenophobia was a big thing at the time. And I am not saying that I agree with the xenophobia. Like I don't agree with the slavery, even though that was the norm at the time. I don't agree with the hate towards Native Americans, even though that was the norm at the time. But like, still, the thing with Chester Arthur, he strengthened the navy, basically bringing it back after the Civil War had ended. About 16 years prior, 15 years prior, something like that. Um, so yeah, Arthur. We'll put him in C tier. Grover Cleveland. Now this is weird, right? Because he had two non-consecutive terms. His first term probably like an A tier, but then his second term brings him down like a low B tier, I'd say. Because his second term was just rid by, or like driven by the economic depression, the Panic of 1893, I think it was, which was mostly caused by the Harrison administration, but still, he had to manage it, and it was still going on even by the time of the 1896 elections. But Cleveland, he was the most libertarian president, by far, and I love that about him. Like, he weakened the power of the presidency because he felt that it was like too much. Um, so yeah, Cleveland, we'll put him in low B tier. Benjamin Harrison, he's an F tier. The Wounded Knee Massacre is all I really need to say because that was the only memorable thing about his presidency. Like he gave out medals of honor for like a genocide on from claiming native territory. Like no, just like how can anyone support that? Like that is horrible. Um, William McKinley. Now, William McKinley is strange, but I'm gonna put him in D tier, right? Because I know what y'all are thinking. Like, oh, but you put Polk in A tier, and yes, I did. But the difference is, McKinley just was like, you know what? Let's just go and colonize just random areas, just for the funnies. The Spanish American War, it was false. It was like the Vietnam War, which we will be getting to soon. But McKinley just decided, you know what? No, we want Puerto Rico, we want Guam, we want Hawaii, we want the Philippines, we want Cuba, and yeah, so he attacked Spain. And the Philippine American War, that was like a genocide. Um, you know, like McKinley, he handled that horribly. And caused the death of over 1 million innocent Filipinos. And he oversaw a good economy. But, like, that doesn't excuse anything. But then we go to Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt was an S tier. Um, he, he was just an absolute champion. Like, he destroyed trusts. He, he oversaw a good economy. The man was wild. Like the food. He started the FDA, which was a really good decision, even if it's kind of subpar. Because of like you know, the U.S. allows like different chemicals to places like Europe. But yeah, like overall, Theodore Roosevelt, an absolute Chad while in office. The Brownsville affair is what makes him like not up here. But yeah, like Roosevelt was amazing, and if he was alive right now, I would want him in office. Um, William Howard Taft. He was a president. He's a high C tier in my opinion, cause he busted even more trusts than Teddy. But he signed worse tariff bills. He only had one term because he was taken out of office by a certain someone. Um, but yeah, like he's William Howard Taft, man who got stuck in the bathtub allegedly. Um, then Woodrow Wilson, F tier, overrated as hell in my opinion. I think people are slowly seeing like how bad of a president he was. But yeah, Woodrow Wilson, one of the worst people to ever occupy the White House. He is the first Democrat since Grover Cleveland, but maybe there was a reason for that. Um, I'm saying that as a sort of Democrat myself. I identify as independent, but I'm more Democratic leaning. Wilson was a massive racist. Like he was a Confederate citizen actually, because because he was born in Virginia during the Civil War, or just before the Civil War. But yeah, like Woodrow Wilson, awful president. Um, like screened the birth of a nation, and he got the U.S. unnecessarily entered into World War I because he gave in to the people. So yeah. Warren G. Harding. Harding is like just above Wilson because while he didn't have like Wilson 2 full terms, Harding had like half a single term, right? Um, like he just kind of he was there. Broke a lot of laws. Prohibition was in full swing. And Harding was just like, oh, okay, yep. So no more beer, no alcohol, no nothing. Anyway, poker party at my house. VIPs get even more booze. What the hell do you mean the rules don't apply to me? Yeah, like he was just kind of he was probably the most corrupt president that I can think of. Maybe also the Grant. Um, but yeah, like he was just not good. Calvin Coolidge, A tier. Um, okay, yeah, he paved the way for the Great Depression, but like for the time, he was the man. Like the Indian Friend or Alien Friends Act, I think it was. I could be mistaking it for another thing. But yeah, like he signed that, basically allowing um like basically recognizing anyone born in the United States as a citizen, which I find amazing because like he recognized like okay, you were born here, you're a citizen, and I admire that about him a lot. And yeah, he was also really xenophobic, but then again, like most presidents were, so I feel like there's enough that you can't hold it against them. Um, like yeah, Coolidge was really good. Um, Herbert Hoover, his successor, as a humanitarian person, he was probably be like S tier, right? But overall, no, just no. He like the Great Depression happened under his watch, and it's a common misconception that he didn't do anything to stop it. He tried to stop it. He didn't even cause it, but like he tried to stop it, but he just made it worse in the end because he kept signing legislation that like tariffs and higher taxes and stuff. Um, but in reality, it just did not. It didn't help at all. Um, so now we're on probably the best string of presidents. Starting with Franklin D. Roosevelt, who, in my opinion, high A's here. Roosevelt was, he was a very strong leader. Like 3 terms. His fourth term was barely a term. It lasted like 5 weeks or something. Um, but like the way, like the only thing that keeps him from S tier was the Japanese internment camps. But like his leadership in World War II, because unlike Wilson, he actually had a right getting involved in the war. Like because the Pearl Harbor bombings and that speech he delivered. In fact, most of his speeches were really good. Like his inaugural address, the day that will live in infamy, like all of them are so good. Like FDR was such an amazing leader, but the Japanese internment camps just fucked him over. So yeah, Harry S. Truman. I always debate whether Truman is better than Coolidge or not. I'm gonna say here that he is, cause while there's like the Truman Doctrine, yep, the name just left my head for a second. Um, like yeah, he just kind of the Korean War as well, that sucked. But like he ended World War II with the bomb dropping on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and I am in the camp where I think the nukes were justified because it saved the lives of millions, and just no one acknowledges that. People are just like, oh, but all the innocents. Like, it would have killed more innocents had Truman not taken that initiative. And he desegregated the armed forces. Like, he was insane. Yeah, he probably just did that to get the black vote in 1948, but still, he did it. Like, that, you have to admire him for that. Um, Dwight D. Eisenhower, S tier. Interstate highway system, basically the reason roads are good now. And like a good economy. There was a recession in 1958, but apart from that, he's good. The only thing that keeps him from being higher was Operation Ajax, which basically just said, you know what? No. To Iran or Iran. Sorry, I don't know why I said Iran. I do not run. But yeah, like Iran, elected a democratically elected leader, but the CIA was just like, I don't know, man. They're looking pretty sus. Yes, I just unironically said sus in a politic tier list. But yeah, like Eisenhower oversaw that, and that was awful on his part. But overall, amazing leader. John F. Kennedy. Now I have to debate again whether he's better than Truman or not. I'm gonna say that he's better than Truman, because the Bay of Pigs invasion, while that was mostly Eisenhower's fault, he was the one who carried it out. Therefore, like, he sort of gets all the blame for it. But yeah, like, John F. Kennedy, extremely strong leader. Like, I feel like people are a little bit more biased towards him because of his tragic death in 1963. But like he was a young and vigorous leader. Like he was one hell of a man. He I it's so insane to explain like how inspiring John F. Kennedy was. Like a Cuban Missile Crisis, he saved the world. Like John F. Kennedy saved the world. Like Eisenhower did as well, but Kennedy, like he took action against Cuba. He took action against Fidel Castro and the Soviets. And yeah, like he did that. Um Lyndon Johnson, we're gonna put him in high B tier. A tier. Why is he not an A tier? Obviously, the Vietnam War, like that, just screwed him. But then the Civil Rights Act and his entire handling of the Civil Rights Movement, that was awesome. I think his handling of just like okay, yeah, his administration basically lied about the like why they entered Vietnam, but he wasn't the reason he entered Vietnam. That was Kennedy, I'm pretty sure. In fact, it might have even been Eisenhower. But yeah, like Kennedy started sending troops to Vietnam, but apparently he wanted to withdraw right before he died. But yeah, Johnson decided to stay the course and like fight in Vietnam, which in my opinion was stupid of him. But yeah, like his action on civil rights was what makes him so good. Like he basically made America like a really hot area for like minorities, like African Americans. Um yeah, like and like his work with MLK was sick. Um hmm. Richard Nixon. People often debate whether he's as bad as he say he is or even worse. Personally, I think he's a low C tier. I don't think the Watergate scandal was even that bad, honestly. Like, it basically he lied about it. That's the bad thing. But like, yeah, and he committed a crime. But it shouldn't have dented his entire presidency. Um, and he actually had to resign because of it. And then also the war on drugs, his bombing of Laos and Cambodia. That was mostly actually Henry Kissinger, but Nixon authorized it. So Yeah, Richard Nixon. No, he wasn't good, but he also doesn't deserve all the crap he gets. Um, I know I'm mostly bringing up bad things, but that's just because like the good things was like he mended relationships with the Soviet Union, because after World War Two, like America was just like, no, fuck the Soviets. Um, so we're getting into our last six now. Gerald Ford. I'm gonna put him in low C tier as well, because frankly, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. I think Ford was an idiot. Like his famous line in the 1976 presidential debates with Jimmy Carter. There's no Soviet domination of Eastern Europe, and there never will be under Ford administration. What were you thinking, Gerald? Like, this is the face of a man who thinks there was no Soviet domination of Eastern Europe. Um, and also his other famous line, I'm Gerald Ford and you're not. Just love that. It's one of the funniest things ever. But yeah, like Ford was president at a very tricky time, and I think he handled it okay. He definitely could have handled it better. But yeah, he was alright. Um, but then Jimmy Carter. Now, in 1976, out of Ford and Carter, I would vote for Carter. But overall, I think Carter was worse. Now, you can really switch around, in my opinion, Carter or Van Buren. I think Carter was slightly worse than Van Buren. But yeah, like um, Carter was a very weak leader during the Iran hostage crisis. But you know, he tried everything, but and that was out of his control. But still, I feel like he should have just sent the military in immediately instead of going for like diplomacy. Um, and also he, like Ford, he oversaw stagflation, which is just when things cost a lot while prices, or like wages continue to go down. Um, yeah, so just kinda wasn't really that good. Um, but yeah, Jimmy Carter, yeah, I like him as a person. I love him as a person, and if you're watching this, Mr. Carter, I heavily respect you, and it's the same for the other two living presidents I'm ranking, Bill Clinton and George W. Bush. I doubt they're watching this, but you know, you never know. I love Bill Clinton, by the way. I have a picture of you next to my bed. Um, not dead ass, I do though. Don't question me. Anyway, so yeah, Ronald Reagan. At this point, I might as well just put Reagan in the NA tier because I know what, no matter what I say, I'm gonna get grilled. And I say this as a Democrat or an independent Democrat. Reagan was a mid B tier. I I think Ronald Reagan had a very successful presidency. Yes, there was the whole Iran Contra, where he was like, "I'm gonna sell weapons to Iran," except I'm not gonna say I'm selling weapons to Iran. Um, that was my bad Ronald Reagan impression, by the way. Um, I think he definitely was. He could have been better. Um, but he oversaw a really strong economy at the time. We now know he just completely screwed up the American economy now. Um, but yeah, like Ronald Reagan, he was alright. Or good even. Like he collapsed, or not collapsed the Berlin Wall, but his words was what brought an end to the Cold War. Like his tear down this wall speech in what was it, West Germany or East Germany, like Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. I need to stop trying to do a Ronald Reagan impression. But yeah, overall B tier. Um, George H.W. Bush. Um, he was good, I'd say. Like a like a high C tier, because the economy he oversaw was bad. Um, and yeah, with with him, he just kind of he mishandled a lot of things. Plus his very well-aged speech, "Read my lips, no new taxes." Of course, that he did have to make new taxes. But overall, yeah, Reagan was a strong, or not Reagan, Bush. He was a strong leader in the Persian Gulf War. Um, like he kicked ass in that, and even I have to admit, he was like super strong during it. But yeah, especially in 1992, he was up against two way better candidates in my opinion, and one of which being our second last player, or I guess you could say player, president, Bill Clinton. This is gonna get me a lot of hate. Bill Clinton is an A tier. He probably oversaw the single best American economy, and it's barely even close. Like Bill Clinton, his economy was super strong. Like his 2000 State of the Union address, that was sick. Now, what prevents him from being higher? I can't remember the name of the act, but like that one where racial inequality was really put into place. That was awful. Along with like it's harder to find like independent artists and songwriters online. Um, yeah, that act was also bad, and even the 1994 crime bill, that was the racial inequality one. But yeah, like even Clinton himself admitted those were mistakes. So yeah, at least he's honest with himself. But yeah, Bill Clinton, I'm a big fan. The Monica Lewinsky scandal, people overreacted with that. Like it was not that big of a deal. Um, and then finally, George W. Bush. I consider him one of the worst presidents ever. His it started off so promising, but then September 11th, 2001, that's when everything just went downhill for the boy. He was he declared war on Iraq without any proof they had the weapons. And the second term, that basically wasn't him. His second term was the economy's market crash and Dick Cheney taking all the work. Like the Iraq War was one of the worst things, and the Afghanistan War, which only ended in 2021, I'm pretty sure, thanks to Joe Biden. But yeah, George W. Bush caused so many wars in the name of saving America, but he did nothing to save the country itself. So, this is my complete presidential tier list. We just have them peeking, but fuck them. So yeah, S tier: Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Theodore Roosevelt, and Dwight D. Eisenhower. A tier: Franklin D. Roosevelt, Thomas Jefferson, John F. Kennedy, Harry Truman, Calvin Coolidge, James Polk, and Bill Clinton. B tier: Lyndon B. Johnson, James Madison, James Monroe, Ronald Reagan, Grover Cleveland, and Ulysses Grant. C tier: William Howard Taft, Andrew Jackson, George H.W. Bush, John Quincy Adams, Chester Arthur, Rutherford Hayes, Zachary Taylor, John Adams, Gerald Ford, and Richard Nixon. D tier: John Tyler, Martin Van Buren, Jimmy Carter, and William McKinley. And then F tier: Millard Fillmore, Benjamin Harrison, Warren G. Harding, Woodrow Wilson, George W. Bush, Herbert Hoover, Franklin Pierce, Andrew Johnson, and James Buchanan. So, I want to thank you all for watching this video. I'm probably going to release this sooner or later after recording. So yeah, I will be quicker making new videos. But yeah, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.